Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's final preseason edition of the Fantasy Corner here on your San Diego Sports Junkies. I'm your host, Steve-O, and once again, as I have been for the last 3-4 weeks, I'm here to challenge you to win your fantasy league this year, and you're going to do that by tuning in weekly Wednesdays at 5:30 to the Fantasy Corner. So if you're just joining the show, if you're new to the show, we've had a ton of new followers this week after our awesome live show we did there at Cali Comfort. And if you're just joining the show, quick recap on what we've kind of gone over. Okay, it's preseason time. It's not the most exciting time of the season, obviously. However, if you're a fantasy football player, you should be very tuned in to what goes on in the preseason. So we've gone over what fantasy football is, how it's scored, the different formats. I've gone over my personal rankings for quarterback, wide receiver, and running back. I'm going to go over tight ends today. And, this is crunch time, you guys. This is, we actually have a really interesting show. There's some major football news that have happened here this week. And it's if you did happen to partake in a fantasy football draft prior to this week, you're probably drafted a few guys that are going to be affected now. So we'll go over that also. Let's kick off the show here. If you guys have any questions for me, you can hit me up on Twitter at FantasyCorner17. If you want to email me instead, it's thefantasycorner17@gmail.com. So this week I have a few of the junkies hanging out and talking fantasy with me, and I tell you what, I'm excited with how much more knowledge they get every week with fantasy football, because next year we're going to have a Sports Junkies Fantasy League. And everyone's going to be included. So today I have Justin, Josh, and Jason. Gentlemen.
What's up, Steve-O?
How's it going?
Pretty good, man.
So anything before I start getting on my rants and raves and what's giving me a boner this week? You guys got anything you want to talk about?
No, man. I've had a draft or two, and I've been pretty pleased. I've sent you a copy of a couple. You've liked a couple, and you've had some critiques about some. But I've followed a couple of your ideas this year and where you're kind of headed and looking. And I'm pretty overall just pleased with my teams. Better than last year and the year before. I think every year I'm growing, and PPR is a crazy league, so you really got to do your homework.
PPR, meaning point per reception.
Right.
Spreads out the value, and it's not all about touchdowns anymore, you guys.
Right.
Okay?
Got a quick question for you, Steve-O,
Yes,
before
sir.
you dive into the action. I have a draft this Saturday.
Okay.
I will not be able to make it because I'll be drinking some brewskis out in Havasu.
Yeah.
What's the best way to rank my players to be drafted, whether it be, wide receiver, running back? Am I picking 5 of each? What's the best way to go about ranking your players for that draft?
Well, first you're going to want to have your strategy going in. So based on the draft position that you are, if your picks 1 through 5, you're going to want to tackle some running backs first. Follow that up with some wide receivers. Then possibly your quarterback tied in a little bit later in your draft. If your picks 5 through 9. 5 through 8, you're going to want to hit those wide receivers first, then follow it up with some running backs. So the best way to do that, is someone drafting for you?
No, I'm literally setting it up on Yahoo's Fantasy Football League.
Yeah.
So you can go in there and pre-rank and pick like my top 100 or whatever, and it'll draft for me. If that number one player on the top of my list is available, it's going to pull it. So do I need to do, five running backs, 5 wide receivers, 5 running backs again? Like, what's your best opinion on that?
Yeah, because you can kind of guess what the first couple rounds are going to look like.
Right.
Okay, and then, obviously it's going to pick off of your preferred rankings.
Right.
But if you go in there and you put your top 10 running backs in there first, you could pick 3 running backs and then have 0 wide receivers left out of your queue. It's called your your player queue. You're not going to have any wide receivers left out of your queue by the time round 4 and 5 come around because they've already all been picked up.
Right.
So it's kind of tricky. I've never done a draft like that.
He's always been present or there for the draft.
It's all about live draft. I'm a live draft guy. I mean, I'll do it. I've done it online. But I'm there in front of the computer.
Have you considered drafting from your phone now? You can.
You bring up a good point.
You can draft from your phone now.
I just
Yahoo
know
has the
that
capability, and NFL.com.
Got some good friends coming down from Tucson to hang out with. I don't see them very frequently, so I don't know if I want to take an hour away from, the time with them. I guess I can
just do this.
Quick little pick. And
Hold on, I'm picking. Boom, and then get back to the conversation.
Yeah, I would.
And then beer me.
Yeah.
This is the thing is it all depends on how serious you guys take your league.
Right.
I mean, if you're not too concerned about it, and it's just all for fun. Then just put your favorite players in your player queue and then see what you end up with in the end. If you do have the capability to have your phone on you, I'd say have that app ready. And Yahoo's draft app is insane. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'd say have your phone on you, and you can still put players in your queue. So if you're in the middle of a beer or a conversation, you're getting sidetracked.
Right.
You know that your pick's coming up, and you know that you need a running back. You can go ahead and stack your queue with 4 running backs.
Right.
You're going to get one of them.
Okay.
So
that works.
That's my advice there. But you know what? Hey, probably the funnest thing about my fantasy season, at least for me, is the live draft. It's a time for you and your boys, your crew to get together.
Yes.
And
camaraderie.
And it's
fun.
It really is. I don't know if you guys ever seen that show called The League.
Yes.
And that's a great.
Series.
I have a couple groups of fantasy football players that we are literally identical to that show.
Yeah.
It runs our lives for about 3 months. I'm getting a shirt made that says "I interrupt this marriage for football season," and then I'm gonna write in there with pencil with a marker "fantasy football season" because it's a huge effect on me and I love it. So those are good questions, guys. Jason, you got anything?
I'll have something for you later on.
Okay.
He looks busy.
Are you Craigslisting right now?
No.
Are you eBaying? What are you doing over there?
Are you in the casual encounters right now?
I just got off that. I'm actually on the iHeartRadio app.
Nice. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, listeners, just a quick congrats here to my my coworkers of the Sports Junkies. They are now going to be streaming on iHeartRadio. So
wow.
that is a
that
huge accomplishment,
Thanks,
and
man.
it's really going to bump up the listeners for their show throughout the weekend.
And
I
your
hope,
show as well.
I hope to be
we're me
following
pubbing
right
you as
behind
well.
it. Yeah, I can't wait. So iHeartRadio is huge, and we're going to really kind of hit a much bigger market. So I'm excited.
51 million strong. So there's
On
a
iHeartRadio.
big group of people out there that we can start soaking up.
Is anything going to change as far as are we moving from Spreaker to
Nope.
something
You
else?
can
It's all
still
on Spreaker.
you can still go on Spreaker.com and listen to the show. Go in the chat room. iHeartRadio is a new thing to us. Our first show is going to be tonight with iHeartRadio, so we're going to figure that out. See if there's a chat room available there as well.
Awesome.
But eventually, when we do get a phone line up through iHeartRadio, it's going to have a little tab you can call into the show. So you can click on there. It'll dial right into the show, and you can talk with us. But we'll keep tabs on that as we get that technology rolling.
Cool. Well, and also, you guys, if you didn't get a chance to make it out this weekend to Cali Comfort Barbecue over there in Spring Valley, man, that was fun. Okay,
Yes.
in that place, I was really surprised. I kind of look at pictures on it online. Right, and it really doesn't do it any justice. It's in the heart of Spring Valley on Troy Street, right there off of, I think that's Sweetwater in the 125. And this place, from the outside, you almost might drive by it besides their big sign because it's kind of right in the middle of a really busy business park area, and you park in. They have plenty of parking for their customers, and you walk in, and it is a sports heaven in there. And not only do they have excellent barbecue, they have great drink specials throughout the week. So if you guys are looking for a spot to go hit on Sundays, Monday nights, Thursday nights,
ice cold beer.
Ice cold beer. Oh, and their spread of some of the local craft brews is great.
It is.
They have. Their
It's a
beer's
good
on
hangout.
tap.
It's a very good
awesome.
hangout.
So we had an awesome live podcast there. Mm-hmm. And I was excited to meet some new listeners. And
place was jumping around a little bit.
It was cool. It was. Yeah.
Imagine a regular season game.
Dude,
Holy cow!
Your fantasy host here got a little buzz going, and it was I was all smiles. So you guys, let's get into fantasy football talk. Kate, there's some stuff that happened this week. I'm gonna name a few things. Wes Welker. Man, oh man. Okay, so that's a prime example. If you had your draft 2 weeks ago, I know you were targeting Wes.
Yeah.
You probably targeted him in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Welker now has suffered his 3rd concussion in 10 months, which is going to really impact the rest of his season. I know he's going. Things are going really good for Wes through the concussion protocol of the league. However, the Broncos, respectable organization like they are, they're going to be very hesitant about throwing a seasoned veteran like Welker right back out in the field and with a concussion problem that he's been having. So That's good. I'm throwing.
It's going to get worse
there.
before it gets better. Is what you're saying?
I'm throwing it out there. I don't think Welker's actually going to play all 16 games this year. If you can get 8 games out of him, consider yourself lucky. So, with that in mind, okay, it's not the end of the world because a couple of his backups are actually free agents right now if they weren't drafted. But one of them, a more popular choice just because he had a name coming from Pittsburgh, it's Emmanuel Sanders. And the other is Cody Latimer, which is directly a backup for Welker in the slot position. Now, of the two, between Emmanuel Sanders and Latimer, you're probably the more attractive pickup is going to be Sanders. Just because you know that he's already going to get playing time as the third wide receiver. However, Latimer, his skill set is very similar to that of Welker's, and you guys have already witnessed over the last 2 seasons the rapport that Welker and Manning have built, and the type of plays that they're able to pull off together. So if you have a guy that's literally another Welker on the field, he's something that you might look to draft late or possibly pick up early as a free agent in the first couple weeks because he's going to be involved. If anything were to happen to Wes and he can't play for the rest of the year, Latimer's a guy to look at as well as Emmanuel Sanders. And the reason I'm not focusing too much on Sanders is because if any of you watched that game last week, you already saw what the guy's capable of. He's a rocket, literally uncoverable speedster, and he went off for 130 and 2 TDs.
And 2 TDs, yes.
And just a nightmare. So this could be huge for Peyton Manning's numbers throughout the year. It's definitely going to be a huge uptick in Sanders' numbers. And so right now, Sanders is being drafted, I think, in like the 7th, 8th round. You can definitely bump him up a round or two earlier now and feel very confident about it. And if you do happen to get him any later than that, you got to steal. So Sanders is now going to be a sneaky sleeper here in your drafts. However, if you got any gamers in your league and if they listen to me on a weekly basis, they probably already drafted him before you saw him there in the 7th anyways. Right. So getting a game, and the way you're going to do that is tuning in every Wednesday at 5:30 to the Fantasy Corner and talk to your boy Steve-O here and my co-hosts of the Sports Junkies. And you know what? As the season rolls on, I'm going to have a couple special weekly guests a few times. I'm definitely going to get my good friend and guru Ryan Bramley in here for a couple guest hosts. I have some other real good fantasy football players that have a little bit different technique to the way they look at the game, and that's always good. I'm not saying my way is perfect, but it works for me, and I got the championships to back it up. So I want you to win your league this year. So the way you're going to do that is please tune into my show. And if you have any questions for me, hit me up on Gmail, thefantasycorner17@gmail.com. So we talked about Welker. That was a big thing this week. Also, what else big happened this week? Cam Newton injured.
Cam Newton has a little fracture rib type deal.
Cam Newton's injured. So he's supposed to be okay for week 1, which is fine. But, however, when you're talking about a mobile quarterback that takes more hits
with the rib
than other guys, right? So that's something to look at. So just be very tentative on drafting Newton as far as, I don't know, when you thought you might want to reach for him.
Right.
Might be a little too much of a reach. So if you can get him later, I'd say wait. What I want to do is talk about some preseason flames and lames. And I take that quote from our good friends over there at Yahoo Sports. And the flames and lames, meaning who is killing it this preseason, who is really stepping it up and looking to come out of the gates week 1 and have a fantasy impact week for you. And then the lames are people that you kind of put a little bit more value on than you should have, and they're really just not living up to those expectations. And again, this is not real football. This is fantasy football. Who are the guys that are going to put up the stats, catch the balls, and get the points for your team? And that's what this is all about. So locally, let's go ahead and talk about some Chargers.
Bolts.
I'm going to give you guys real quick. I'm going to give you guys 3 guesses as to which Chargers I am very high on right now.
I'd go number 1. I'd have to just go obviously with Phillip Rivers, just because he's Phillip Rivers.
Justin got one.
Okay,
perfect.
ding,
Josh, who else am I high on right now?
I'm going to have to go with Keenan Allen.
Perfect.
Keenan Allen has played really well in the preseason and showed no second or sophomore slump.
That's good. Jason?
I'm going to guess Antonio Gates. If not Antonio Gates, then maybe Danny Woodhead.
Perfect guesses, and you guys are all three right. It is Keenan Allen, Gates, and Rivers. Now, Gates, I'm high on him just because his value has dropped so much in his ADP, his average draft position has dropped so much that you're getting him in like the 9th, 10th round. And
Good value.
This right now, Gates is still our tight end.
Yes.
I know everyone is very excited about Ladarius Green and his capability. However, Gates is still our number one, and he's shown it. Okay, he's looking healthy, feeling healthy, and I'm excited to see if he can. I'm not going to – you should never go into – especially at the age he's at, don't go into the season thinking he's going to put up the Gates numbers of 2008, 2007. They're gone. That's
Right.
expecting Michael Turner to come back in the league and just start busting, with 4 TDs a
Right.
game like he was.
Got to
It's
be
not gonna
realistic,
happen.
yeah.
So Gates is looking great. So is Keenan Allen. But Phillip Rivers, you guys, okay, our QB is back. He's looking stellar. That game last week against San Francisco, he went out there, and I mean, did he even have an incompletion?
I think he went 9
had
to
one.
10, yeah.
9 for 10. I mean, he is looking stellar. And right now his ADP is like in the 8th, 7th, and 8th round. He's grouped into that value of like a Tom Brady, a Nick Foles, a Tony Romo. And of those, he's right there with Brady as being probably one of the biggest quarterback steals of your fantasy season. So if you have a draft coming up here, you guys, if Rivers is a name that literally has kind of been off of everyone's fantasy radar here for a couple years. So if you get the chance to get Rivers in the later rounds, 7th, 8th, 9th round, you are going to get one of the better quarterbacks fantasy-wise in the league this year at a very, very profitable draft spot. So I'm really stoked on Rivers. Keenan Allen is living up to his expectations. So he's a flame just based on that, because right now he's being drafted as a top 10, top 15 wideout in like the 4th and 5th round, and as well he should be, because he's showing that ability. He doesn't have that sophomore slump, as Josh mentioned, and his time here in San Diego and his weekly points that he's going to put up in fantasy is only going to maintain or get better. So I like everything I've seen out of Allen. Now, to something that Jason said, he mentioned that possibly one of my flames might be Danny Woodhead. And however, I have all of the Chargers running backs in the lames category as far as not meeting expectations. And the reason that is, I'm not saying they're not playing good. Actually, they're playing fine. Mm-hmm. They're playing fine. Let's get that. They're playing fine.
Keyword's fine, and
Fine.
the next keyword is preseason.
It's preseason.
Right.
They're playing fine, but we're not looking for fine when it comes to fantasy. I'm not going to draft a fine player.
I want a good player.
I want someone that's going to put up points and put up stats. And unfortunately, with this committee that we have going, it's tough to really trust any one of those running backs based on what I've seen this preseason. Now, I don't know what McCoy's going to come out with week 1 and how he's going to spread out the usage between Matthews, Woodhead, and Donald Brown. So, yeah, unfortunately, I got to put our San Diego Charger running backs in the lames category. A couple other guys that are really looking good this preseason and that have, late round, not late round, but based on their average draft position, these next couple guys are going to pay out dividends. And the first one is Matt Ryan, quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. He is prime this year with having probably one of his best seasons. I think he's throwing a ridiculous 65% completion ratio throughout the first 3 preseason games. He has both his top wideouts back with Roddy White and Julio Jones. Mm-hmm. And then also, let's not forget the guy that stepped right in and replaced Julio last year, Harry Douglas.
Yes.
So now you got Matt Ryan. Matty Ice, has 3 excellent wideouts at his disposal. And the offensive line is giving him a pocket and time to throw. I mean, he's looking great. They lost Tony Gonzalez this year, which was one of his favorite weapons. But when you have a running back that catches the ball like Jacquizz Rodgers does, right? Little quiz, man.
Little X factor.
Little quiz. He's an X factor, and he's that guy that can get those 5-10 yard shots.
And he's one of those guys, right, Steve-O? Like, if I'm not wrong, later in rounds, if you're looking for running back depth, he's a great solid pick at what,
Wait.
maybe 15, 16? Is he sitting there?
If your league's drafting 15 or 16, let me get in.
Yeah.
That those are hard to find. But yes, Quiz is draftable. I wouldn't
Right.
say he's startable. He's probably a bye-week filler, a plug-and-play flex.
But just for depth purposes.
for depth purposes.
Spot
And
starter.
the main thing about the Falcons right now is Matt Ryan.
Right.
He's primed to have another 4,500-yard season with probably 30 or plus TDs, most likely even more. Okay, so Matt Ryan's looking great. He's a flame coming into week 1 here in 12 days away?
Yes.
Oh, I can't
Well,
wait.
a week from tomorrow is the
am-
first game
I-
of the year. Actually, we're 7 days away
I
on
cannot
Thursday
wait.
Night Football, and I think it's Seattle, and I want to say I can't remember, but I think it's Seattle and somebody.
I can't wait.
Super Bowl champs always open up, right?
I cannot wait.
I know.
So, you guys, real quick, we're gonna take a quick break here. But before I leave, when we come back, we're gonna talk about some more preseason flames and lames. And stay tuned here to the Fantasy Corner of SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com.
Hey everybody, this is Jason from the San Diego Sports Junkies. When you're finished letting Steve-O show you how to win your fantasy league, I want to invite you to listen to us, the San Diego Sports Junkies. We're a show for the fans, by the fans. We're talking Chargers, Padres, Aztecs, and any other San Diego sports that you may be interested in. The show is every Wednesday at 7. Go to our website at SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com or listen to us at Spreaker.com or iHeartRadio.com. Be sure to participate in the chat room during the show and let your voice be heard.
Do you need help with your business project that is due? Maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, from business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
Are you looking for a bar for your next sporting event? Come to Cali Comfort Sports Bar in the heart of Spring Valley, where they are passionate about sticking to the true barbecue traditions. Using their unique low and slow method, you are guaranteed great barbecue no matter what you order. From pulled pork to tri-tip, football to MMA, Cali Comfort is your one-stop shop for all your sports and barbecue needs. Find them online, CaliComfortSD.com.
All right, welcome back. Quick commercial break, and welcome back to the Fantasy Corner of San Diego Sports Junkies. I'm your host, Steve-O, accompanied by a couple of my buddies from the Sports Junkies. We got Justin, Joss, and Jason.
The 3 J's.
JJJ, J to the third power. So we were talking a little bit about flames and lames of the preseason and who I got really slotted to make an impact coming up on week 1. And I'm freaking excited. You know what makes me more excited is that intro music.
Oh, my God. Are
gosh.
you pumped up?
I can't wait.
I can't wait for John Gruden to start doing his weird commentary.
Yeah,
That's it. Mike
I love
Tirico.
that guy.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
crazy.
That guy. You know, I'm going to have my people contact his people, and we're going to get him on the show.
We need to do that.
'Cause,
see if your agent
he's
can swing
great.
that, all right?
He is great.
He is.
So before the break, you guys, we were talking a little bit about, you know, what we've been talking about the last 3 weeks. Fantasy football, what it is, how it's scored, you know, gave some rankings. Before I go into more of the flames and lames of this preseason, I want to go over one last category for your roster, which is tight ends, okay? And I want to rank probably the first 6 or 7 Other than that, everyone's pretty much going to be in the same group. So first tight end off the board, it's no surprise. You got Jimmy Graham. Let me write this down. We got Graham, who currently is being drafted in the first round. I think that's a bit of a stretch. However, it's doable if you can build around him later. And the reason it's worth it to draft Graham in the first round, let me tell you. Graham consistently puts up 10 points a week or more than all the other tight ends.
So you're saying when I drafted him in the second round of my big money league, my first one,
you got good value on him.
I mean, I drafted him in the second round.
Yeah, you got.
So
great
I mean,
value.
obviously that's good.
Yeah, no, it's great. Because when you get a tight end like Graham, this is the thing. When it comes to fantasy football, what you want to do is have your team compile the most points every week versus your opponent.
Of course.
Now, when you have a category like tight end, and you can only start one tight end, and your tight end is scoring 10 more points than your opponent's tight end. 10 points is a lot of ground to make up for that week in fantasy. So you need your wide receivers to each have 3 or 4 more points than the next guy. Your quarterback have 3 or 4 more points than the next guy, just to make up the ground that Graham spent between if you're starting Greg Olsen and I got Jimmy Graham, you're in the hole 10 points already.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why Graham is the first tight end off the board. He's earned it. He's been a consistent producer, and the guy puts up better numbers than 90% of the wide receivers out there. So he's a stud. He's a first-round pick. I would not take him in the first round. I'd take him probably early the second, or maybe the end of the first round. So you got Graham. Then I got Gronkowski as number 2. And Gronk's currently being drafted in like the second and third round. Gronk's kind of a tricky one because when Gronk plays and Gronk's Gronk and he's feeling good and looking good, and Gronk actually puts up numbers that match Graham's, if not better. But however, the last few seasons, Gronk has not been able to play a full 16 games. So it's kind of risky drafting Gronk right now at his current ADP in the second, third round. If you're able to get a steal on him, people somehow forget about tight ends in their draft, and he's sitting there in the 4th or 5th round, I'd say absolutely pass up whoever else is available and grab Gronk if he's there. Besides Gronk, we also have Julius Thomas over there in Denver. Thomas came out last year and just made waves. It's not hard to do when you got Peyton Manning throwing you the rock, and Thomas, he is primed this season to even put up better numbers than last. So he's going to have a monster year. However, the only reservation with Thomas is the fact that he's on a team that has so many mouths to feed. Realistically, the number 1 target over there in Denver is obviously going to be Demaryius Thomas. You got Welker, you got Emmanuel Sanders, you have the emergence of Monty Ball, supposed to be this huge PPR back now for that team. Right. You got Latimer. The team is stacked with a lot of options, so it's tough to put a whole lot of value on Thomas, especially at his current ADPs in the second and third round also, which is I feel it's a little early, but if you need to go, if you want your tight end, then go get him in the second round.
Right.
So right now we got Graham, Gronk, and Thomas. Outside of those top 3, goes to the next category is. There's about 4 or 5 guys that you can really juggle based on who's 4th and who's 7th and who these guys are all pretty much in the same value, and that's Jason Witten over there in Dallas, Vernon Davis in San Francisco. Who else we got? Who am I not thinking of right now? Got Witten, Davis, Cameron,
Jordan Cameron.
Yep, Jordan Cameron over there in Cleveland. And Is
Owen Daniel still a viable option at this point?
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Because they have Garrett Graham now still.
And Houston's kind of a big mess right now, so I don't know. They're coming off of
Just throwing a name out.
A 2-14 season. Like they're offensively, they're just not
challenged.
The Texans. Yeah, so let's go ahead and keep it at those 3 right now. The next group of tight ends, you're looking at Jason Witten, Vernon Davis, and Jordan Cameron. Of the 3, the one with the most upside for me this year, which is going to be a little bit of a surprise, is Jordan Cameron. He's on a team, Cleveland, who is offensively challenged. However, Cleveland, as you guys know, just lost Josh Gordon for the year. That's a huge blow. I know some guys were drafting Gordon later in the rounds, hoping that he might get a half a season suspension or or even less than that. However, the NFL has backed it up. He's got a full season suspension, and Jordan Cameron is primed to be the primary target for either Manziel or Hoyer, whoever might be throwing him the ball. So, and Cameron's an elite talent. He really is. The next couple guys are a few of the usuals. You got Olsen, and you got Bennett over there in Chicago.
Do you like Olsen this year? I asked you that a while back.
I like Olsen because he's one of the consistent guys in Carolina. I mean,
and he's got somebody to throw him the ball.
Yeah,
I mean, he does.
Cam's not garbage. You
No.
know, he's not
superstar.
He's not Brady. He's not Rodgers. No. But it's still Cam Newton. So Olsen is a good value on your tight end. He's even going real late, like 8th, 9th, 10th round. You got Bennett over there in Chicago. Cutler's a stud. He's got an arm. You know, he throws a lot of picks. But you guys know the two weapons already there over there in Chicago, yes. Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey.
Yep.
So Bennett, obviously, is he going to catch 100 balls this year? No. But on a week-to-week basis, is he going to put up consistent tight end numbers for you and get by? Absolutely. And outside of Bennett, the last guy here is Zach Ertz. And I really like this kid over there in Philly.
Too.
Nick Foles used to throw the ball over there to Gronkowski in college. And Foles, through the preseason, has been comparing Ertz to Gronkowski as far as size, talent, speed, hands, everything. And so I have a sneaky suspicion that Ertz is really going to be the breakout tight end this year, as Julius Thomas was last year. And also with Ertz, I have Jordan Reed over there in Washington. And that rounds out my top 10 tight ends. So we got Graham, Gronk, Julius Thomas, Jason Witten, Vernon Davis, Jordan Cameron, Olsen, Bennett, Ertz, and Reed. And of those 10, I believe the two you're going to get the most value out of, if you can get them, is Jordan Cameron and Zach Ertz. So I got a couple hands going up here.
Yeah. Well, I have Ertz and he is Cameron, so we're very excited. We're very excited about this. We're giving high five.
What do we got, Jay?
All right, I got a question for you. Since we're moving on from the tight ends, with Sam Bradford going down, now Kenny Britt and Tavon Austin, the two wide receivers in St. Louis. I'm not sure how high you had them ranked anyways. But if somebody's going to be drafted this weekend, do you stay away from those guys now?
I mean, I personally, I think outside of Zach Stacy, I don't think there's anyone ownable for as far as fantasy purposes.
Can Sean Hill even get Tavon Austin to
now,
football?
He's not garbage. He's not horrible.
No.
Does that change your opinion of Zach Stacy at all? Does that change anything about what you were thinking about Zach Stacy?
You know what's crazy?
Bradford got hurt?
People were drafting Stacy in the second round. I'm just not a fan of the guys that Stacy was usable, and he had a great rookie season last year.
Right.
Okay, but he plays for the Rams. There's teams that
you're right though.
Fantasy purposes, you're going to stay away from in general unless they fall super late and they're sitting there and everyone else just has a real bad taste in their mouth. You know, you got the Rams. I realistically, I don't want to own anybody from the Rams. I haven't owned a Ram since Amendola played there.
Or Marshall Faulk. But we didn't have fantasy football back then.
Well, yeah, we did, actually.
At the tail end.
We've been playing fantasy. I mean, they didn't have Yahoo Sports do it online for you and make it easy as it is right now, but fantasy football has been around
for a
since
while.
Like the late 90s, so
it's
been around for a while.
Fantasy football was around when I was in high school. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's just gotten huge.
Yeah, it's
I'm a man. I'm 41.
I'm a man.
Yeah, I'm a man.
That's awesome.
So those are the tight end rankings, you guys, and it should be no surprise if you got. I mean, and a few of those, especially the last 6, people can kind of have their if there's someone else that I missed, plug them in.
I'm trying to think, but it's and you're kind of high on Ladarius too. I mean, we didn't really mention him earlier. Yeah. We were just talking about Gates. I mean, I still figure him a big target of this team.
Yeah,
I really do.
You still, yes, as far as a San Diego fan, I'm really excited.
But does he
Green.
fall along the lines of a Peyton Manning, where there's a lot of mouths to feed on this team with Malcolm Floyd coming back, Eddie Royal, Keenan Allen? You got a lot of options.
You guys, this is the thing with Green. Everyone has to temper these expectations. He's a talent. However, he's still our second tight end. He is not the starting tight end. Right. So if you do draft Green, It's going to be late, and it's going to be a guy that you're not going to start on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, you're not going to get a whole lot of points out of your tight end unless something happens to Gates, and maybe something happens to another receiver of ours.
Yeah.
Malcolm Floyd is a graham cracker. He might go out there and crumble.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then a guy like Green could come in and really benefit and put up some fantasy numbers. So tight ends go. Those are my rankings. That's where I look. I'm actually targeting guys more like a Cameron, a Zach Ertz, a Jordan Reed in the later rounds. I want to stack my team with some playmaking wide receivers and running backs first. That's just my idea. It works for me every year, so I like it. Now, back to a few more of the preseason flames and lames. You guys, there has now been a reemergence of the muscle hamster, Doug Martin. Okay, he's lights out right now.
Yeah, the preseason he's been pretty good.
He's got a huge chip on his shoulder.
Right.
He's looking great.
Yes.
And I think he's even, his current ADP is like in the 4th round. If you can get a guy, I would even reach, I'd put Doug, if you
third round?
I'd draft him in the 2nd. If I was at the end of the, so if I'm the first
9th or
one
10th pick.
No. And if I'm the first 1 or 2 picks in the
okay.
draft, meaning so the 2nd
Right,
round in
coming
the
back.
snake,
Yep.
it comes back down. So you're talking pick 19, 20, 21. Doug Martin right now. And
He's
this is
viable
changed,
option,
He's
yeah.
changed my mind. I did not say this a couple weeks ago, but he's looking great. So if you drafted a LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles first, and most of those backs are gone as you're coming back down the 2nd, if Doug Martin's sitting there, absolutely go stack him up because he is due for a bounce-back year. He's looking great, and I like it. A few of the lames as far as how this preseason's played out, and this is weird because it's going to contrast what I said last week. Eric Decker. Decker had a ADP of like in the 7th, 8th, 9th round. It's looking more and more that Decker is going to, obviously he's the number 1 over there in the Jets, but with Geno Smith and his accuracy issues, Decker, it's so hard to trust any wide receiver on the Jets.
Yeah.
It's just so Decker. He has not looked great this preseason. I mean, he's coming down with the balls. He's making the plays that he's asked to make. However, it's only 2 or 3 a game, and that's unfortunately for fantasy purposes. Eric Decker's going to be a guy that you're probably going to want to stay away from. I drafted him in the 12th round of my draft. That I've only had one draft so far. I got him in the 12th just to sit there in case something were to happen. If Geno goes down and Michael Vick comes back storming, and at least he's got a good weapon.
Eric Decker as a
Yeah.
target.
Yeah, aside from the running game for the Jets, I would kind of be a little fearful of anybody else on that team. I mean, they're kind of like the Raiders. They're just inconsistent at quarterback.
Yep. Cam Newton is one of my lames right now just because he really hasn't been the Cam that we saw his rookie season. He's kind of inching his way back. He usually has a slow start and then kills it the second half. So, again, we're talking preseason right now. We're talking what they're going to look like week 1. Cam is he's not living up to his 4th, 5th round ADP for me, so I'd stay away from Cam.
And he's got that rib injury, too, the little fractured rib.
We talked about that earlier,
yeah.
and it was...
You're talking about a mobile quarterback that's that takes more hits than the average quarterback out there. And he's already going into week 1 with a little stinger there.
Yeah, and that's what I told you earlier. I mean, I got him last round of my draft recently, and it blew my mind. I think people are very hesitant, even injury or not injury. He wasn't injured yet.
That's good value.
It is great value.
So
He's my second quarterback.
I can only imagine what the rest of your team looks like.
I have a very decent team, but to grab him that late as a spot start here and there, it worked out good.
Yeah.
Shit.
Weird one to talk about here, the Steelers' defense, okay? Because, in most fantasy leagues, we all got to start a D. Steelers, the Pittsburgh has been one of those staples of, like, a defense just you got to own them.
Yeah.
Because they are just the steel curtain. They're going to go out there and put a hurting. But the Steelers are looking so soft.
Dude.
It's such an old team right
It
now.
is.
It wouldn't surprise me if they give up the most points scored throughout the season.
They're not looking
Well,
good
it's
at
funny
all.
you talk about that because if you really look at it, it looks like the AFC as a whole, those mainstays, the Patriots, Pittsburgh,
Baltimore.
They've all taken a step back to earth.
Yep.
Seattle's really the only, and Frisco, Frisco kind of, they're banged up too, but Seattle's the only real dominant defense you see around right now.
You know what's unfortunate is the NFC West, that whole division. all those defenses are great. You got two of the toughest defenses with Seattle and San Francisco. St. Louis is making huge jumps.
Most sacks last year as a defense.
They are crushing it. And then let's not forget about Arizona who has probably the best cornerback duo in the league.
Cromartie and Peterson.
And also what's the Honey Badger?
Honey Badger.
Oh, Tyrone Matthew.
Yeah.
Tyrone Matthew.
Dude, they're shut down corners
Right.
over there. They probably have. I'd honestly say Patrick Peterson's probably the best corner in the league and shut down corner. He's better than Revis, better than Sherman. Okay,
I think he's better than Sherman.
So with that said, then on the AFC side, what team defense stands out to you? Is it the Chiefs? I mean,
Chiefs look great.
The Chiefs had some injuries last year, and they faltered down the stretch, but those guys are healthy now. It's safe to say that they're going to be one of the top defenses in the AFC.
Well, look at what the Chiefs did. They started 9-0, 10-0, something like that.
Yeah.
And,
it was
soft take schedule.
But it was almost all predicated on their defense.
Yeah, it's all defense. You got Charles, and then you got the Chiefs defense.
Scoring defense, yeah.
I don't usually talk too much about defenses because their teams, your defense you're going to draft is one of your second to last or maybe your last pick in your fantasy draft. They don't have a huge impact every week. However, the top ones do. And if you go in there and draft the Steelers D, I'm telling you, you're going to be really disappointed. The average defense will put up 8 to 10 fantasy points weekly. And that's something that the Steelers used to double on a weekly basis. This year, I'm telling you that I wouldn't be surprised if Steelers put you in negative points every week. They're looking real bad. Another lame is Trent Richardson, and I'm telling you, you guys, that we got to get off his first round hype of him being drafted by the Browns a few years ago. He's averaging a very Penguin snail-like 2.2 yards per carry, and it's becoming very apparent that T-Rich, it was not the value that the Colts thought they were getting when they made that trade. So I'd stay away from T-Rich. We also on this list that we already talked about him, Welker. Not that he's been a lame. It's just
injury.
You got 3 concussions in 10 months. Is never good.
No.
Do I have any more lames here? Okay, now here's a lame, and this I'm really bummed about this. Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount.
Right.
Both those two. I drafted Bell with my 3rd pick, and I'm really regretting it now. However, just because it's looking more like it's a timeshare with those two,
right? And
with the off-field issues now, with marijuana charges, DUI for Le'Veon Bell. If this is something that continues, especially in Pittsburgh, where that team has a lot of pride and a lot of history to it. They don't put up with anyone's shit over there.
No, they don't.
And so Bell and Blount could really be headed towards fantasy wasteland. And
that's too bad too, because
I'm not too excited.
That duo could have been something special this year.
Well, I hate duos. God, I hate duos,
yeah.
especially when you go draft a guy like Bell.
Yeah, because you want a workload guy. You want a horse.
Yeah, so those guys aren't looking good. And last, I don't want to end this on all these guys that are bumming me out. The guy that's really there's 2 guys really keeping me excited and for late round picks, Shane Vereen and Emmanuel Sanders. We already talked about Sanders, and I'll retouch on that in a second. But Shane Vereen, you guys, if you're playing in a PPR league, I typically any running back in New England is no one to trust. However, Vereen is really showing that he's that target for Brady when all other routes crumble, which happens on every game. 10 to 15 times per game, something happens on these wide receiver routes. So Vereen, being that receiving running back, is really going to be a point scorer on your fantasy team. So look for Vereen in your drafts, especially in the later rounds. He's dropping way late, and you can get huge value on him. So you guys, real quick, before we wrap up the show, we're going to take one more quick commercial break. Thank you for tuning in here to the Fantasy Corner of San Diego Sports Junkies. I'm your host, Steve-O. Stay tuned. I'll be right back to close it out.
Need help with your business project that is due? Maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, From business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
Hey everybody, Jason from the San Diego Sports Junkies. I'd like to invite all you Charger fans to join us, the San Diego Sports Junkies, for our live show, Monday, September 8th at Cali Comfort Barbecue and Sports Bar. If you made it to our last pregame show, you know how great the atmosphere at Cali Comfort is. The show starts at 6 o'clock with kickoff around 7:15. So come on down and throw on a headset and let everyone know what you think about the Chargers. That's Monday, September 8th, before the Chargers destroy the Cardinals on Monday Night Football at Cali Comfort in the heart of Spring Valley. Let your voice be heard.
Okay, you guys, welcome back, and thanks again for tuning in this Wednesday and every Wednesday at 5:30 to the Fantasy Corner of San Diego Sports Junkies. I'm your host, Steve-O, and we've had a quite interesting show. We've had some stuff I didn't really want to talk about. I don't like talking about guys getting hurt. I don't like talking about draft picks that you might have reached on that really aren't going to pay off this year. However, that's what I'm here for. So in every week, I'm going to give you some sneaky sleeper pickups, the starts and sits based on the matchups. I'm going to go through it, and we're going to have different guest hosts every week to kind of give their opinion. If you have a strategy that works for you, please chime in. Hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what's up. I'd love to join my chat room. Twitter handle is FantasyCorner17. You can email me at thefantasycorner17@gmail.com. I want to talk to you. I love talking this stuff. My wife hates that I spend so much time doing it, but I love it. I can't get enough.
Well, we love that you love it because we appreciate your contribution on here.
Well, and these guys, the San Diego Sports Junkies, they're really getting into the fantasy world here, and they know anything and everything about San Diego sports. Chargers, Padres, Aztecs, you name it. These guys got the answers. But what I'm here to talk about is a little bit of fantasy football and tell you why I win, and I want to give you my secrets. So if you want to win your league this year, please tune in every week. So we went over some of our tight ends, as far as rankings go. Went over some flames and lames. The last thing before I end the show, I don't even want to talk about that. I was going to talk about Noshawn Moreno. And I don't know why.
In Miami, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, wait.
Well, what's your opinion on him this year? Tannehill, what do you got?
To tell you the truth, I don't know.
Lamar Miller?
They went and put, I was going to bring up Miller.
Yeah.
They went and put some money down on Noshawn. There's a reason Denver let him go, okay? And so I don't know to trust Noshawn over there in that backfield. Yeah. Lamar Miller has done nothing over there.
What a question mark, huh?
Mike Wallace did, after getting $60 million, he did nothing. He's not paying off dividends for Miami. So
right.
Miami's another one of those teams. To tell you the truth, the only fantasy option that I would actually feel comfortable about over there, and this is weird, is Charles Clay, the tight end. I love that guy.
I was gonna Mike Wallace. No, probably not.
No, I don't like Wallace.
Okay.
I really don't. Who you got throwing the ball?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like any fantasy option over there besides Charles Clay.
Production dropped off tremendously last year.
Charles Clay has the ability, just based on that offense being as inefficient as it is, meaning that in the second half they might be playing from behind and just airing that ball out. Clay being that inside route runner, tight end, right? Clay could really come knock on the door of being a top 10 tight end for you this year, and he might be someone that's available on your waiver wire week 3 or 4 and really pay dividends, and it didn't cost you nothing.
Right.
So that's why I want to talk about Noshawn. The guy was lights out last year, but there's a reason Denver let him go. So if Miami wants to pick up the scraps, then so be it. Talked a little bit about Jordan Cameron. His value is way up right now. Just based on the fact that Josh Gordon's out for the year, look for Cameron to better his stats from his rookie season last year. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Weeks 1 through 7, 1 through 8.
Right.
He crushed it. I mean, his unfortunately Cameron also now is on the radar of everybody. So he's being drafted right now in like the mid rounds. You got 6th to 8th round. But if you get a chance to snag Cameron, he has top 5 tight end potential, which is huge. Is he going to put up Graham numbers? I highly doubt it, but he can do it. Some weeks I've seen him. I've seen him put up over 100 with a couple TDs, so he's a monster. Stay away from any St. Louis players, even Zach Stacy. I mean, I wouldn't say stay away from Stacy, but if you're drafting Zach Stacy, if you're drafting him in the 2nd round, like this current Yahoo ADP has him slotted in, that's a stretch. Arian Foster's looking okay. He's being drafted in the 2nd round.
You know they're going to give him the football this year.
I don't know who else they're going to have get any points for them. So Foster, it's crazy. He's being drafted in like the late 2nd, even early 3rd round. Grab Foster if you get a chance. Stud muffin. Other than that, that's the show for the week, you guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been a very interesting preseason. I can't wait for next week's show. Really, that's the day before kickoff, right? First game of the season is next Thursday, correct? Okay, so you guys, we're gonna call next week the kickoff show, and I don't know what I'm gonna talk about yet, but I bet you I'm gonna get some things brought up to me here on Twitter at FantasyQuarter17. And if you have some stuff you want me to bring up, email me, thefantasyquarter17@gmail.com. This has been your weekly hookup on the Fantasy Corner of San Diego Sports Junkies. I'm your host, Steve-O. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week. Bring it.
Sky is the limit, out of my way, you can't get me down.